Saturday Morning RPG is a game that is designed to grab video game lovers in their 30s by the scruff of their neck and demand their attention. It plays on nostalgia so badly by attacking our senses with that which we hold most dear, the TV shows that we watched as kids. Stuff like this is catnip to me, so it's certainly got my attention, but if it's going to play to my nostalgia, then it better do it well. So, does it? Let's find out. The story revolves around Marty. He dreams one night of battling the evil Commander Hood to rescue the girl of his dreams, Samantha. He is visited by the wizard, wearing a glove of power, which he proclaims to be so bad.
I love the power glove. It's so bad.
And gives Marty a notebook which he says will give him the power to save the girl. Marty wakes up to find the notebook on his bed and so starts the adventure to save his hometown of Shadow Valley from Commander Hood. There are 5 chapters, all playing like episodes of a Saturday morning cartoon. Amusingly, one of these episodes is a Christmas special and includes a joke message or moral, just like shows used to do. Within these episodes you will find nods to various 70s or 80s shows such as He-Man, Care Bears, Fraggle Rock, Happy Days, Transformers and Different Strokes, as well as movies such as Bill and Ted, Gremlins, Commando, The Toxic Avenger, Back to the Future and many, many more. The story is completely nonsensical and very self-referential, but if you are on board with the premise and have nostalgia for that time, you'll be chuckling to yourself as you play. Story gets 15 out of 20. The graphics in Saturday Morning RPG have an interesting style. The backgrounds and environments are displayed in a top-down 3D style, a bit like the Pokemon games on the 3DS, but all the character models are displayed as flat 2D sprites. The game is bright and colourful, and some of the character designs are interesting to look at, and each of the 5 episodes is set in a different location. I especially liked how the character models looked as the camera panned around them at the start of a battle. It's also nice to see all of the pop culture references hidden in the background, the ones that the game doesn't draw your attention to, but they've taken the time to include nonetheless. The music sets the tone quite well. It's fairly laid back and melodic whilst traversing the main levels and then ramps up when the battles start. There is also a quite hilariously cheesy song that plays at one part during an action scene, and it's so wonderfully 80s it would not be out of place on the Rocky IV soundtrack. It's things like this that this game does very well, and graphics and sound get 14 out of 20. Saturday Morning RPG is a turn-based, RPG. You traverse your environment completing objectives by talking to people and collecting items. There are a number of side quests to complete that will net you extra experience points, and these for the most part are generic fetch quests such as gathering up all of the pets in the school, finding a fellow student's baseball cards, or being sent to talk to a chain of people to eventually find something out. They become stale quite quickly, and whilst of course they are optional, it would have been nice to have seen a bit more variety here, rather than just effectively changing the item you are being sent to find. There are also boxes hidden around that contain stickers. These stickers grant you perks in battle, such as extra health, magic, speed or accuracy. You choose the ones that you wish to be active by sticking them onto the front of your notebook, and then at the start of every battle, you must scratch as many of them as you can in the short time given to unlock them for that battle. You scratch them by swiping at the touchscreen or moving the left stick, and to be honest, this again became a bit of a pain very quickly, and I really did not enjoy this feature. It just feels a little unnecessary and almost feels like it was put in just to make a scratch and sniff joke. Once into the battle, the game is turn-based, but you have a chance to reduce damage taken by pressing the A button just before you are hit in order to defend yourself, and also maximise the damage that you do with certain attacks by pressing the button at the correct time, much in the same way as games such as Paper Mario. You can choose to charge an attack first, which uses your energy meter, and also have a range of physical and magic attacks. You can swap out the attacks you have for newer ones you find as you go along, or ones that you can buy from vending machines. You do this by going to your notebook when not in battle. The problem is that a lot of the stickers seem quite superfluous and don't really add a huge amount to the game. I found one new attack near the end of the game that was pretty useful, but other than that pretty much stuck to my starting abilities and never bought any of them from the vending machines. There was just no real need to. There are no support characters either, which is a real shame, especially when you consider the wacky characters that you meet along the way. This also makes battles less interesting as you use the same one character all the way through, and although you can swap abilities as I just mentioned, there will be many that you will never use as you only have one character and a certain amount of slots. Having another party member or two would have allowed for you to use more of these powers and kept things a little more interesting. Enemies appear on the screen, so technically there are no random battles as such, as you could just walk around them, but they are such a big target and usually standing right in front of your way, so you end up fighting them anyway. When you strip away the craziness of the story and the amusing popular culture references, you are left with gameplay that is very basic and quite repetitive. This doesn't make it bad, just a little too by the numbers, and it scores 13 out of 20. The controls in Saturday Morning RPG are responsive and simple to use. You move using either the left stick or the D-pad and interact with things by using the A button. In battle you select an option from above your character's head and everything is fairly self-explanatory. You press A at the appropriate moment to attack or defend and can use the touchscreen to select the attacks should you prefer. Controls do their job just fine and they receive 16 out of 20. Saturday Morning RPG costs £7.19 or $9.99 and will take most people around 7 to 10 hours to complete. Now when most people hear the words role-playing game, they automatically think of games with a minimum of 40 or 60 hours of gameplay, so this is clearly a bite-sized adventure, and to be fair the price reflects this. As already mentioned, the game is split into 5 episodes, and this works in the game's favour, as playing these in individual chunks helps the game from feeling too tedious. Having said that, even with such a short runtime by genre standards, the game certainly starts to feel a little too over-familiar by the end, and probably finishes just before it outstays its welcome. By episode 5, most of the famous shows being parodied have been shown, and once the nostalgic kick starts to wear off, a lot of what's left is not as interesting. In terms of replayability, there are side quests and also achievements in the game. These are awarded for such things as winning a certain number of battles or winning without using stickers. I'm not sure what the general consensus is on whether achievements offer as big an incentive to return to a game when there is no gamer score attached, but they are here nonetheless. Value gets 15 out of 20. To conclude, Saturday Morning RPG is an interesting idea. To create a role-playing game inspired by some of the most well-known and best-loved shows and movies of the 80s sounds like a recipe for success. It does a lot right in this respect, creating a story that is as wacky as you would expect given the source material, and it's also fun spotting all of the references as well. The problem is that the basic gameplay is a little uninspired and starts to feel repetitive even when you factor in the game's short runtime by RPG standards. If the developers had given as much love to refining the gameplay so that it didn't feel quite so derivative as they clearly did to creating a world full of over-the-top characters and pop culture references, this could have been a must-buy. Instead, it's a decent RPG that increases in appeal if you grew up in the time period that the game is paying homage to. Saturday Morning RPG gets a switch-up score of 73%. Thanks as always for watching. Please leave a like if you like what you saw and heard, and consider subscribing to us for all things Switch all the time. And as always, happy gaming.